What were they doing here? They were supposed to wait for Katie to get her mom to talk. Katie ran downstairs to see her mom opening the door, and at her door was Mimi, and another cop who looked to be about the same age as Mimi. He had black hair and looked Asian. He looked at her, and she saw his green eyes, and she couldn't help but feel a little excited, but then she snapped back to reality. "Can I help you, officers?" her mom asked, cool as a cucumber. Katie, on the other hand, stopped being angry and suddenly became herself again as she ran up to her mom, hugging her. Then she pulled herself together and stood, facing Mimi, giving her a puzzled look. Mimi returned the look with an "I'll explain later" look. "You're Linda Lina, correct?" the Asian cop asked. Kay read his name tag, and it said Lucas. That name sounded familiar, and as she examined him, she realized he looked familiar, but she just couldn't place it. "Yes, I am," her mom replied, looking a bit nervous. "Ma'am, you're under arrest," he said as he pulled out a pair of handcuffs and placed them on her mom. "What are you doing?" Katie shouted. Lucas and Mimi looked at her confused. "Katie, you knew why do you sound so shocked?" Mimi asked. "You were supposed to wait, though. You don't have enough evidence," Katie tried to reason. "Oh, so you're Katie," Lucas looked at her. "I'm afraid we found some more evidence. Another witness came forward and told us the plate number of the car the robber got into, and I'm afraid that number matches your mom's car," he explained as he started pushing her mom out and saying the normal stuff when someone got arrested. "Where am I supposed to go then?" Katie asked, bursting into tears. She was trembling. "I'm afraid you're going to have to go to a foster care family," Mimi said apologetically. Katie almost fainted at hearing these words. She had lived with her mom her whole life. She couldn't imagine living with complete strangers. "Can I pack up some of my stuff first, please?" Katie begged Mimi. There were a few items she couldn't leave behind. "Of course," Mimi smiled at her. Katie ran to her room, still crying, as she slowly started packing her suitcase. She looked out the window and saw Lucas and her mom in a cop car driving away. When she finished packing, she ran downstairs. "Are you ready?" Mimi asked. "No, but I don't have a choice, do I?" Katie sighed. As they walked out of the house, she looked back at her house for the last time for a very long time. It no longer looked menacing, just sad, as it brought back so many memories that Katie didn't know if she could ever relive again. Katie sat crying in the back seat of the cop car for a long time until they reached a small ranch house in the suburbs. "This is it," Mimi said as she opened the car door and stepped out. Katie did the same, grabbing her suitcase as she did. The house was yellow, with a bright red door. There was nothing remarkable about it. "Let's go," Katie said, trying to sound excited, although inside she was crushed and just trying to figure out what was happening. "Good luck," Mimi said as she started getting into the car. "Wait!" Katie shouted at Mimi when she was about to drive off. "What?" Mimi stuck her head out of the rolled-down window. "When is the trial?" Katie asked. "Friday," Mimi said before driving off. Now it was just her alone in the stranger's yard. She plucked up the courage to knock on the door. As she did, a girl opened the door. Katie looked at the girl and realized it was Kat. "Kat?" Katie said, half excited and half confused. Kat stood in the doorway, confused for a moment, examining Katie before it clicked. "Dad said we were fostering a child my age. I didn't realize it would be you," Kat said. Katie couldn't tell if that was meant to be excited or disgusted. "Well, I guess we'll be staying together," Katie said shyly. "Dad!" Kat shouted, ignoring Katie when she walked away. Katie stood there hurt. She had to make it up to Kat, or else things would be awkward for both of them. "You must be Katie," a voice interrupted her thoughts. She looked up to see a man. He was about twice the size of Katie, with brown hair and blue eyes. Yeah, Katie stammered as she stood there quietly thinking of her mom. "Listen, I know things have been hard for you, and that's why I wanted to help. I figured you and Kat could get along. Oh, did I forget to mention, that's my daughter, Kat. It's just us two here, and I figured she could use some company from a girl more than me," he explained. Thanks, is all Katie could manage to murmur. "Please come in. Your room is the last door in the hall. I'm going to be cooking dinner. Please, make yourself at home, and maybe you and Kat could get to know each other," he told her as he headed to another room, which Katie guessed was the kitchen. She walked to her room and started unpacking. It was an average room with a bed, a bookshelf, and a desk. As soon as she opened her suitcase, she heard a knock on her door. "Yes?" Katie shouted. The door opened, and Kat stepped in. She looked sad. "Katie, can we talk?" Kat asked. "What?" Katie gestured to Kat, and she sat on the bed with Katie. Katie looked at her old friend. Maybe they could be friends again. Just maybe. "Katie, I'm sorry," Kat blurted out. "You lied about your name. So what? It's not that big of a deal, and I realize now." Kat shifted her gaze from Katie to the bed. "Kat, thank you, but if it isn't that big of a deal, then why does the entire school hate me? And why was I called to the principal's office?" "It's because Josh didn't like you. He's the principal's son, so he can get away with a lot. As soon as he heard you lied about your name, it was the perfect chance to strike. He told his father and spread rumors about you. Basically, he exaggerated the problem. I believed him, although I was wrong. I'm sorry, Kat explained. Katie sat there in shock. Josh was the cause of all of her problems. She would still have been popular Caden if not for him. But she still had one question. Why would he do that? Katie asked, hoping Kat knew the answer, although she didn't have much hope left in her. Katie shifted uncomfortably in the bed, waiting for Kat to answer, and after what seemed like forever, she finally answered. He was scared you would take his spot as the most popular kid. When you got there, you got attention almost immediately. He was scared his opinion wouldn't matter, and he would become what he calls a commoner. Kat groaned and made a disgusted face. They both laughed and started chatting about the ways to get revenge on Josh. Katie, for the first time in her crazy week, felt happy, like everything would be fine. She suddenly didn't care if the entire school hated her. She knew at least she had a friend. She didn't care that her mom was in jail because she would have a loving family to go to. Maybe things were finally looking up for her. They stayed up chatting all night, and eventually they fell asleep in Katie's room. When Katie woke up, she heard the loud beeping of her sound of her phone alarm going off. Katie looked over to see Kat sprawled out on the bed, still asleep. Katie shook Kat awake, and together they quickly got ready for school. When Kat's dad dropped them off at school, she no longer felt sad and nervous to go to school. She knew no matter what, she always had friends. Kat and even Mimi. Together, Katie and Kat walked into the school chatting when Josh stepped in their way. Oh, how cute. Friends reunited, Josh mocked, and his friends all laughed from behind him. Katie just scoffed and ignored Josh. She grabbed Kat's hand and pulled her around the bullies. They weren't worth our time, Katie told Kat as she let go of her hand. Kat nodded in agreement, and they went to class. Katie looked back as she re-entered the classroom to see someone that looked familiar. But before she could tell who it was, they disappeared into the crowd in the direction of what looked to be the math classroom. After school that day, Katie had to stay later than Kat for her redo Mathly auditions. Katie separated from Kat as she walked into the math class, and Kat walked to the pickup area. Katie walked into the bathroom nervously. The Mathly team would get her into her dream college. She walked in, fixing her gaze to the floor. The Mathly team was made up of the smartest kids. She doubted she could even get in. She didn't have all of her grades over 95. Stupid ELA, she whispered. What was that? A very familiar voice asked. Katie froze. She didn't mean to say that out loud. Nothing, she stammered. She looked up at the Mathly team and realized who had said that. It was Lucas. That's why he seemed familiar. She must have seen him around school. But why was he a cop if he was still in school? Is that even allowed? Katie, Lucas shouted in surprise, interrupting Katie's thoughts. Oh, hi, Lucas, she stammered. She looked down, afraid she might embarrass herself. Who is that? One of the voices from the team said. Isn't that the girl who lied about her name? Another voice said. Yeah, that's right. Why would she let her on her team? Guys, come on, give her a chance, Lucas told them. Fine, one of the voices said. Katie looked up and saw 3 other members on the team.